Hey, how's it going, everybody? Hopefully, everybody's having a good day, and welcome back to the podcast. Um, it's been a minute, um, but uh, we have made it through, and we are here, and we are back. A lot of stuff has been going on um, since the last time I was on, and I had to set up in our area here. um, Hold on, real quick. Do, 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 do. Okay. All right. I've been trying to run around and get this stuff taken care of, so if something seems off, it probably is. All right. But as I said before, welcome to the show, and hopefully you guys are ready. Yes, glad you guys are here. Um, so much has been going on. Getting the new location for us set up here, and just taking some time to do some family stuff and take care of some things that we've been uh, having to deal with. Also, just trying to make sure that also we had the podcast stuff get the pages on Facebook. I had to delete them, which really sucked because it was over 535 followers that we had on the podcast. And yeah, had to get rid of it because there were people that were hacking it, sending me messages talking about, oh, well, this page has been, copyrighted. You're infringing on copyright stuff or whatever. And I was just like, yeah, okay, not going to happen. Sent a bunch of stuff off to Facebook, still didn't get my stuff resolved. So I was just like, screw it, dude. I'm just going to delete it and get rid of it because I just don't want to deal with that crap. And starting anew. So here we are. Yay, brand new page. Um, Starting off brand new. But if you have been here on the show before, you know what we're about. We this podcast was made by myself back in December, and I wanted to do this because not only will it give a platform for people to talk and discuss issues and subject matter that other people would be like, well, you're freaking nuts, you're crazy, because I was getting the same thing as well. People weren't understanding what I was saying, um, and I was just like, looked at like, wow, dude, you're like really out there. But for people who are, I guess you could say, seeing past the bullshit of what we're seeing daily, what we're being told, what we're being taught, what we see on TV, the control, and the manipulation of the system. If you've ever seen that movie, They Live, you understand what I'm talking about. Um, and if you don't, for those who were born after the 80s and didn't get to experience really cool stuff like the movie They Live, when you look back on that movie, that's exactly how people who are seeking the truth, whose eyes are open, and I don't just mean just your physical eyes, your spiritual eyes, your third eye, you're understanding like, oh shit, everything that I've known has just been a lie. And you start looking at things differently, from things in your own area of your life to things outside of your immediate realm, um, where you stay and where you're at. And you start looking at things differently. You start analyzing everything. You start analyzing what you see on TV. You start analyzing what is real, that is being told to you. And you look and you see it and you're like, wow, you look at it when, like, for say, like ads that you see on the TV or whatever. People that really realize the importance of understanding that when you do this kind of thing and you're starting to understand the reality of what is going on, it puts a bigger perspective on a lot of things. And for people that are going through that, or that are experiencing that kind of stuff, and I'm saying, you know, if you don't understand what it is and you want to talk about things like that, this is a platform. This is why I did things like that, to talk about everything. Doesn't matter what it is. I don't really want like talking about politics a lot, but I understand the backing of what's going on behind this political issue and a lot of things that are happening. And I talk about stuff like that, because I don't back either party, because I see the government for what it really is. It's just a puppeteer system that is in place to make people feel like they have freedoms and rights, because we know that's BS, because we've seen a lot of stuff of people getting their rights infringed on daily. So does it really matter what party we vote for? No, because the president that we vote for is just a temporary employee. That person is just there for 4 or 8 years, and the system just keeps going and keeps rolling and keeps going. It never becomes what we were meant to be, which is free. So, people that want to, talk about political stuff, that's fine. But I'm not going to go party to party, or, you're wrong, you're right, I'm right, you're wrong, yada, yada. That's not what this is about. We look at the bigger issues behind it, or things that we notice, or things that we see that are flawed, that are just, it's just a hologram of the reality of what is really going on. Um, Also, we get into a lot of things. I mean, like, religion. I'm not, I grew up, I was baptized Catholic, was growing up, um, and to Christianity at the age of 5-ish, 6-ish on. So all my life, like I said before on my old page, I had given an introduction, of things that have happened with me myself. Um, that I started at a younger age, I started understanding or feeling like, something's going on. Something just doesn't feel right. Sorry. And I don't know what it was. Something in me was just like, going about, it just seemed like I was awake, but I was understanding things that I shouldn't have. And I used to talk to my mom all about this stuff all the time. And I'd bring it back up to her like, Mom, do you remember when I used to ask you about this weird stuff because of stuff that I was seeing? And she would be like, yeah, I remember that. And, I love my mom to death, and my parents guiding me and, trying to do the best that they could with what they had. And, it was really hard trying to understand what was going on, or what you're seeing or experiencing when you're asleep and you're having these astral projection dreams and you're describing flying like Superman because I mean, you're 5 to 8 years old and you're trying to understand what's going on and seeing things out in your dreams that scared the shit out of me. How do you explain things that you don't know what it is, but it's scaring the crap out of you because it's scary? And I remember, like I said, I bring that stuff up to my mom all the time. And that is why I look back on it because seeing the things that we saw or trying to explain it, it had a lot more to do than what I was being taught. And it made me question everything. Why are we seeing this? What is going on? Like, this doesn't seem like what I'm being told, but it was always explained to me that you know, it was the Bible and it was God and it was meant to be that way. So yeah, you're young, you swallow it up. But as I got older, I started experiencing things or seeing things or feeling certain ways about subjects. So I started reading. I started getting into learning into, ancient texts or ancient history and finding out that a lot of things that I was being told was simply not true to me in a sense. Um, and it made me question everything. Why? Because the fact of the matter is that these things were based off of ancient knowledge. It was ancient rituals that were being done 30, 50,000 years before that. Then it starts leading into other things in my life. If these civilizations were ancient and they had all this knowledge and they had all this experience, they had to be way more advanced than what we are now because they were doing things with the spiritual aspect of themselves, which was able to be given to them by what we know now as the Anunnaki, the sky gods, the ones who came down. And like I said, I'm just throwing this out there. This is stuff that I've researched and looked into myself. This isn't just me saying, though, this is what I'm telling you and this is the truth. No, please go out there and look at this stuff. Check it out for yourself and see what I'm talking about. Um, so as I'm saying is that you start learning that, these, you know, ancient cultures were adapting these similar stories, which was passed on, and it was what everything is going on now, but it's ancient stuff. And it started, making me question a lot of that stuff and okay, well, if this is what's really going on, what else is around it? And looking into everything else about ancient civilizations and these cultures around the world who talk about these beings who come from the sky, giving them knowledge, giving them technology, um, showing them a better way of doing things to progress themselves, but also were being worshipped as these gods that came and gave them knowledge and gave them this information that came from other planets. And they describe this stuff in detail. The detail that goes into this, and I love the quote that Sadhguru talks about in the uh, Bhagavatarata, the Indian book. I was listening to his audiobook on Seeker of the or Spotify, and then again, Spotify doesn't endorse me. I'm just saying I listen to them. Um, and he was talking about how uh, the people at the time were talking about these vimanas that were flying around and talking about that it produced a light, but there was no fire or oil to fuel this light, which makes it sound like electricity. They were seeing lights on these beings, crafts, and we're trying to describe it. So now you start seeing in these cultures talking about this technology, talking about these things, and giving details. And archaeologists and researchers and scientific minds are trying to figure out, okay, well, if they're describing this stuff, and if you go into the ancient Indian texts, that it gives you descriptions of these vehicles. And I'm just jumping into one narrative here because I'm, like I said, this is stuff that I get into, and I'm really, it really started piquing my interest. Um, as I said, growing up and looking into things, I wasn't allowed to look at books like that because it was the devil. It wasn't what God wanted. It didn't, it was, it was a no no. It was outside of the box. A lot of people's minds that are just in this box, it goes along the similar lines of saying, well, that we're the only civilization out here on this planet because you don't go outside of that boundary. You don't go look outside of there to explore it because that's a no-no. Kind of sounds similar to the fact of the Garden of Eden and the forbidden tree of eating the knowledge, the fruit of the knowledge of the tree of knowledge, whatever. And eating of that fruit, we found out that the devil, the serpent, was telling Eve, "Who told you you couldn't eat this?" Right? Who told you that you cannot have this knowledge? Because you're starting to see the similarities, not even just with this creation story, because this creation story, if you followed any of the posts that I've posted or you followed other videos on the Secret of the Unknown podcast, this podcast here on YouTube, you'll find that I talk about this stuff, and give you the sources that I have. If you want to look back on them, like I said, I don't. I need to start doing better on labeling the podcast, and I'll probably go back and do all that stuff on the subject matter so that way you can see it. But I episode them, just by numbers right now. But when you look back on these ancient texts, right, and it's not just in Mesopotamia, because we find out that they were the center of where creation began. And as I said, when you look into that stuff, you find that these sky gods came down and they were trying to harvest and um, gather up as much of the resources that they needed to sustain themselves on their planet. So we were really like a colonization, a harvester planet that was rich in nutrients and everything that they needed to sustain themselves. And they knew um, the wealth of this planet, which is why they kept coming back. They did not want to be doing the work themselves, so they created human beings. And if you look in the tablets of the ancient Sumerians and the story, the creation story, that you see that it talks about exactly what was told in the Bible, but this was told 36,000 years before that, or 5,000 years, excuse me. And between 5 and 36,000 years, you have this whole gap of history that was left out of the the Bible. Because when you see that after Adam and Eve, and I'm gonna jump up a little bit ahead, that when uh Cain, they had Cain and Abel, and Cain killed Abel, and the gods were like, why did you do that? So they kicked him out. They banished him from the living area where they were at, and they told him, if I leave, they're going to know what I did and they're going to kill me. Who's we? Who's the we that he was talking about? And what other lands did he go to? Because that shows that there were people that were already here. So this is the first thing that blew my mind, because I was like, okay, this shit don't make no sense to me. So I had to look into it. Who were these people? Who were they? And he said, so that way they don't hurt you, I'm going to mark you. So that way they know that you belong to me and will not hurt you. pretty much like what you do to your cattle, right? You mark them. Any of your livestock, any of your art, any of anything that you get, you sign that thing, put your mark on it, put your stamp on it, so that way other people who have it or find it or see it go, oh, that belongs to that person or this company or whatever. So I think it was like, man, this is fucking weird, dude. Like, this is opening up a whole new door. It's like going to that boundary. When you look through that whole book and stepping beyond that, no, don't go past that, because if you eat this fruit, if you touch this, you ain't coming back. That's how it felt to me as soon as I started opening up this door. But luckily, like I said, with whatever differences or whatever opinions that we have, um, I love my mother to death, and I talk to her about things, and she's steadfast in what she believes, and I'm wholeheartedly with her, because there's certain aspects of that truth that do hold fast for with me, and I believe them, but just not the way it was told to me, because there are other things that are showing me, okay, this makes more sense, and this fills in those gaps that I had questions about, with not only just cold hard fact, but with evidence of it. And we're able to talk about that, just like I'm able to talk with certain people who have that same opinion, but don't necessarily believe a lot of what, not just myself, but other people who have done this research, who are putting this stuff out, are saying, you know, we can agree to disagree. And that's one thing that I said, I appreciate, is that, when you're able to have a discussion with people about certain things, and you're able to say, okay, well, this is my opinion, this is your opinion. Okay, cool. We can agree upon it, or we don't agree upon it, but it doesn't mean I hate you for it. That doesn't mean that we can't be like talking about stuff never again, like this is the end. And for the people that feel like that, or have nowhere to talk to anybody about, because like I said, I've met a lot of people. I've met a lot of people who have said, fuck, man, you don't understand. Like, you see memes of people posting things on Facebook or whatever, talking about, here comes me at the social gathering, and everybody knows I'm going to start talking about my, my bad C word, the conspiracies. And you're that person, because it's like, somebody starts going off on something and you hit it and you're like, man, dude, like, do you really know what you're talking about? Like what you're saying, or what, you're just regurgitating crap that you hear on TV without doing your research and looking at it, or going and getting in the books and finding the information, going to a freaking library and getting this information and studying this stuff, and then just drop the bombs on them and just show them like exactly, what this stuff means, or what's, the reality, with the information behind it. And, you just become that person. And it's cool, because like I've learned to, like, I just don't I just sit there, I just chill, and if somebody asks me something and comes up and is like, hey cuz, or hey, mijo, or hey bud, I was wondering about this stuff, and we sit and talk. And they might not, if they don't understand or they don't want to talk about what I'm talking about, that's on them, you know what I mean? My job is, like, I seen this post on Facebook, it says, when you become enlightened and your eyes are like open to the things of what's really going on, you start getting to the point where you realize that if people are going to do what they're going to do, they're going to do it. If you give them the information, like, hey, look, just look at this, check this out, and see what happens, that's on them. And that's the cool part, is because you can just agree to disagree. But as I said, I'd like to bring this information out there, ancient technology, ancient civilizations, cryptids, folklore, things that just interest you, that pique you, that make you go, man, this is crazy. Like, I study this stuff, or, the paranormal, or life after death, or what the take is on that, on different cultures, and what their, narrative is on that, an ancient, And the Native Americans here, because we're native with the Lumbee tribe out of North Carolina, Fayetteville boy, born and raised. Um, there are a lot of things that have come out of North Carolina. Even there were stories about the special forces group that was sent out to the Appalachians because people were talking about this creature that was living up there, like a wolf or something, or like a werewolf, like a cryptid beast. And people were missing and people were getting taken, and they suspected something was up there because of certain things that people were saying, just like there is nowadays. And this goes into something else deeper, is a lot of things that people see, throughout the world, as far as, UFOs or cryptids or Bigfoot or, whatever, the Jersey Devil or the Mothman. These things aren't just things that people have all of a sudden brought up. A lot of these things go back far into cultures around the world that talk about these things. And that's why I say, when you look at it, people say, "Oh, well, these people are out of their mind, yada yada yada." Um, you know, how can you believe in something like that? That's just ridiculous. Like, that's some Frankenstein shit. And it's like, okay, but this must have been the same way that people who were back then, or who in ancient times, described seeing these things. But I think back then people took it seriously because that's what they believed in those things. They knew that if they went into the woods, that there were different spirits that were living in the woods, good or bad. Their connection with nature and their connection with everything around them was totally different from what ours is today. A lot of people's minds are closed to the fact that we're not alone in this realm that we live in, and we're not alone in this universe. And that's just what I believe, not just on what I've seen, what I've experienced, and what I've looked up, and what I've read on. I mean, I got my library over here. You can't see. You probably see my jar of mango lollipops I keep. It just becomes a thing of building your knowledge base. And I'm not saying that, going online and looking at stuff, but when you look at stuff online, go and get a book, read up on the subject, because then it gives you more base power when people start talking to you about things, to back it up and say, okay, well, this information that came from here, give them the source and whatever. Say, okay, if you want to look at it of what I'm talking about, then go ahead and look at it. Because a lot of times you'll find that, people want to make you look stupid, or people want to make you look like an idiot, which is why they coined the phrase conspiracy theorists back in the 60s, because they infiltrated these groups of people who were open about, things that were happening, not only just in the government and, these paranormal realms, or these realms of cryptids and creatures of mythology, to ancient stuff that was going on, just anything to discredit people who believed outside of that box, who were starting to break out and become more aware and more conscious of the things that were going on around them, that the government had to infiltrate. Now, this, like I said, this is not just me talking. This is stuff that you can go see in the unclassified documents of the CIA, because they've released a lot of things, and people don't realize that they do this. Once they declassify something, they will publicly post it to their page, and you can search for it. And one way that I started looking at this was because when I started following Dr. Stephen Greer, he was the first person besides David Wilcox, on Disclosure, when he was working with Gaia on his show, were the first two people that I realized. And then I got into Billy Carson, um, and started looking at his stuff and reading his books. And um, howdy, thanks for joining. Um, and looking into other sources, Gen 6 Creations, they are a Christian-based organization, six Gen 6 Productions. I started looking at their stuff, and if you haven't looked at it, looked at it. They base it off of narratives that are found in the Bible, um, and that's pretty much the extent of it. It happens in that realm, but it also adds and pretty much corroborates what Billy Carson and David Wilcox and Dr. Stephen Greer and these others um, that I'll mention here in a little bit. Matthew LaCroix, um, people that know of things outside of that box that have gone out behind that perimeter of the no zone and done their research and have found that there is stuff that is going on that we were told that is not real, that is true, and the CIA has released a lot of the information on that stuff. So please, I urge you, if you think that a lot of the stuff that conspiracy theorists are talking about or are talking about to you when you're talking to them, go ahead and look it up. The government has released a lot of their documentation on many subjects. One of the ones that just came out was the CIA released documentation that was talking about us being able to move and control our reality around us with words, and the whole program that was behind that, that they were studying on. And there's also, just go look. There's a lot of other stuff that's on there, and you'll be blown away and mesmerized by the stuff that you find on there. But jumping back into what I'm saying is this. I made this podcast because I wanted people who were of like mind or who felt like they couldn't talk to their friends or their buddies or their family or their grandma or their priest or their church groups or their, bias groups that would have just shunned them. I wanted to give people a place to talk about their experiences with anything or chime in on whatever we're talking about here on the podcast. Um, because I didn't want people to feel like, well, I don't, I'm just going to keep this shit to myself because I don't want to talk about it. And the previous podcast, like I said, the previous podcast that I had on Secret of the Unknown that was on Facebook, I had to delete it because a lot of the crap was my stuff. Like these hackers were getting in there and trying to tell me that my content was hacked. I couldn't log into my account. I would have to log out and try and log back in. But then I started realizing, wait a minute, like they probably shut me out of my thing to get my crap. So I just said, screw it. I'm not going to take the chance of these assholes, taking my content. So I just deleted it and I made this one over again. And that previous one had over 535 to 542, I think, followers that were on it. So I thank everybody for following and joining along. And I'm sorry that um, I had to do that. But, I just, for the sake of what I was trying to do, I did not want that crap just getting out there to whoever. And distorting it or using it for whatever purposes that they wanted to without my permission. So if you're joining me back here on the podcast, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Share, follow, get the message out there as much as you can. And as I said, we are here to discuss a lot of these topics and a lot of these issues and a lot of things that are going on. But today, what I want to talk about is, can you guys hear me? I didn't even ask if you guys could hear me. Hello, hello, hello. Um, um, One of the things that a lot of people are not really, looking at. But I told my wife, because it's funny, because we sit here and we talk about a lot of this stuff, and I love her to death because, like I said before on my previous page on Facebook, is that when her and got together, I would really hesitant about it, and I told her, well, you're gonna think I'm weird or something, and if I start talking about this or whatever, and she was like, no, I totally get it. Like, I'll listen to you. And we just would discuss a lot of things, and I would talk to her about, like, things that I would notice or I would see. And she, sits there and listens to me. She's like, wow, I never thought about it like that. That's pretty crazy. And I was like, it's weird, right? Like, this is insane, like, to think about it this way. But she was like, I totally see what you're talking about. And the one night that this was after we had just moved um, here, to our home, and her and I were sitting outside. Now, this is just one incident, and like I said, I'm telling you this because she's here and she can validate it, um, if she wants to. We were just chilling outside, and I told her, because I was just like, man, just looking up at all these beautiful stars in the sky, because out here we can see everything. We see the Milky Way just sitting outside. We were just sitting outside, and I was talking to her, and I was like, man, babe, wouldn't it be, I mean, if you look at the sky and you think, all these stars that we're seeing, it's like looking at a map. When you look at the sky, you see different points in the universe, or in our solar system. What if that galaxy that we're seeing is just a map? And I told her, man, I would love to just be out there and just go see what's there. And I said, if I spoke it out there, I said, if this is real and you're really out there, I want to see it. I want you to take me with you and show me this stuff so that way I could see it. I've never told anybody this. So you guys are hearing this for the first time, okay? I've told, my close friends that I, talk with and associate with, but this is the first time I've put this out there. I was just speaking it. I just said, if this is true, I want to see it. I want to know that it's real. Show me. Like, just come and get me. Come and get me and just take me, because I want to see it. And I'm laying there and I'm looking up at the sky. She's sitting in her chair. And as soon as I got done saying that, it was like a flash of light, just went like quick, like somebody took a picture. And I froze and I was like, what the fuck? And I looked at her and I said, did you see that? And she was like, that bright light? And I go, yeah. And she was like, yeah, it was like somebody took a picture from the sky. And I was like, okay, is this really happening right now? Like, we were just stuck because we could not explain it. And I think for the whole night, for about like 2 hours, we sat there trying to talk about it and, go, what the fuck was that? We really saw that, right? So I'm sleeping. I go to sleep, and I have to get up to go to work the next day. So it was probably about 12 o'clock we went to sleep. I get up about 5. It was about like 4:30, I think I was getting up. I get up, I get dressed, I'm doing my thing. I, tell her goodbye. I start walking out to the kitchen to go out. And our back door is in the laundry room. Out of the corner of my eye, I see something standing in the corner, and it made me jump back. Like, it scared the shit out of me, but it was like gone. And I was like, what the hell was that? And I was like, fuck it, I got to go to work. So I leave, I go to work, and I come back, and I jump in the shower, I come out, and then, I'm dressed and I'm sitting there on the bed, and I'm just like thinking about what the hell, and her and I are talking about it. She's like, look at your legs. And I was like, she's like, what is that? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She was like, look at your ankles. And I kid you not, I had three, like like a triangle indentation in my inside of my ankle and on the outside. So it was like this, like dots. And it was bruised, like perfect round. It was crazy. And it looked like a thick needle. It was round, three indentations on my ankles, on both of them. And I sat there and I was like, "What the hell?" And she was like, "Where did you get those at? What happened?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And she was like, "That's weird." And I looked on the out, that we could see the inside. And I looked on the outside and I go, "Holy shit, it's on the outside too." And she was like, "No shit." And she was like, I was like, "Yeah, look." And I flipped my leg over and sure as crap, there was three more in the exact same position, like something was inside of it. And I tripped out. She tripped out. Um, I couldn't explain it. I don't remember anything from that experience other than what I saw, and I drew what I saw. The description of what I saw. Okay. Like I said, I've never told anybody this. So this is me opening up to you guys and letting you guys know what I saw. And you know, I know I'm going to get a lot of fucking backlash for this, but I'm just being real about it. The description of what I saw in the laundry room, just like out of the corner of my eye, that flash, like it was like it scared me enough. I literally thought somebody was standing there and I was going to get ready to fight this thing. It was taller than me. It had like a tight suit on it, and I could see the collar on it because it was like a blackish blue. And the suit itself was like the hue of like, fuck, I don't have it. You ever see that like that crinkly paper where like when you crinkle it, it looks like shiny, like rainbowish and stuff, like the plastic? That's what his suit looked like, but it was like grayish blue. Like it was nuts. And I could see his hands were like cupped like this over his fingers. It was weird because it was like he was just like in the corner, but it was like predator like. He was going in and out because there was a light outside and I could barely like see him. Like it scared me. It scared me to death. Um and its face, I just remember seeing its nose and its little mouth and its eyes. Its head was long and it was shiny. I can remember that. It was just like weird. And I could see its hands, like the bones in its hands. Like, fuck me, dude. It was just like crazy because I remember thinking about it that day. And then after, like I said, I got out of the shower, like it hit me. Like I just remember, holy fuck. And I told her, I was like, babe, if you think I'm nuts, if you think I'm crazy, that's fine. But I know what the fuck I saw. I know what I saw. I called my mom. I told my mom, I was like, I don't know how to say this. I said, but I seen this, and I showed her the picture of what I drew. She told me something about what she had seen, and it was like way before then. But yeah, I you know that really tripped me out because we've seen some crazy stuff out here. Besides that, and like I said, I was just wanting to bring that out there because these experiences are things that I've experienced. I want people to be able to talk about it and share it. I'm putting my ass out there. You guys, that know me know me. Um, just seeing the things that I've seen, not just throughout my life, but here, um, and with everything that's coming about extraterrestrials being real and stuff like that. It has really opened my eyes to research a lot of that stuff. And as again, one of the top people that has helped me realize that is Dr. Stephen Greer. I also, and that's a good thing. Hold on, let me. Um, this is one thing that I think a lot of us should do is document this stuff, and it's really hard because, like I said, I mean, it's like um, I've learned that um, throughout the years, I wish I would have documented a lot more stuff. Um, should I fucking put cameras outside of the house and see what I get? Yeah, I think we've been talking about that stuff too, is just getting some cameras and putting them on the corners of the house, um, just to see what we can find or what comes up or whatever. But, we were sitting outside. I was doing my ice bath, and um, I was just meditating, and I started getting into meditating, and I started looking into that. Um, Aspect of spirituality. Now, I said before when we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast was is that I don't care what you believe. This isn't a place for me to judge anybody. And like I said, if you're going to talk about stuff or we're going to have a discussion about it, that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a discussion. We'll talk about anything. I don't care. Bring it to the table because there's stuff that you're going to tell me that I don't know that I'm going to learn, or vice versa. And that's how you get information. You spread that seed of knowledge to help people to look into those things. Yeah, and that is another thing too that I've talked about too. Amanda's, as you can see her comment here, um, she's talking about seeing shadow figures and stuff out of the corner of her eyes for a long time. It's that dimension. We talk about that on the podcast previous episodes too. Is that what that is? Is that is our glimpse into the other dimension? Like there's a slight where it comes together, where we're seeing these things, or we're seeing people, or we're seeing objects, or we're seeing into other things, that split dimension where it just we're able to peek, or people have done that. People disappear all the time. If you've ever watched the episode Missing 411, yeah, and that's crazy too. The tall man, um, a lot of the hype that goes around that is people seeing this man that's tall, kind of like Slender Manish, or you have the top hat man. Um, it's just like, yeah, and that's what I mean is like, you get the stories and people validating that stuff and seeing it for themselves. That's when it becomes real, is because you start going, okay, well, if other people are seeing this stuff or experiencing these things, you look into it and you see how far back this stuff goes, and we're talking about ancient stuff. Is this why our ancient ancestors worshipped or revered these deities? Is because they were seeing them. They didn't know what they were. They couldn't explain it. All they knew is that these things were doing spiritual things that were beyond their capabilities because they didn't understand. Were these creatures, or these beings, or these entities, or these spirit, forces that were here on Earth that had more knowledge and had more power? That's what's crazy, is because you start looking into it and thinking, okay, well, maybe that's what they were trying to convey. Maybe that's what they were experiencing. Now it's just, oh, well, it's just something that they were taught because it was, yada yada yada. Any freaking way to discredit anything, to make it look like it is not what it really was, which is something spiritual and supernatural that was actual physical. They'd seen it, touched it, experienced it. And looking into those studies and those ancient texts, and to the researchers who have done their due diligence with looking at this stuff and reading up on it as well, going to the library. Um, yeah, shadow walkers. Yeah, it's kind of like yeah, skinwalkers. um, going to the library and researching a lot of this stuff, you find that there is a lot of documentation that goes back a long ways describing a lot of this stuff. Um, when people, I mean, on one of Dr. Stephen Greer's documentaries that he did, Unacknowledged, they were saying one of the ways that they were able to discredit a lot of people's claims or things that they had seen is like putting it out there in like tabloids to discredit people. Oh, well, you see Bill Clinton shaking hands with the UFOs at the White House, or I had Bigfoot's baby, or, crap like that. It's like doing things like that to discredit people from getting their, getting the word out that, yeah, they had seen something like that. And people, experience this stuff, but they don't get the due credit for seeing it because we just throw them off like it's just nothing. Because they don't want us to understand that, yes, there is possibly something that's going on here. There's possibly things in our national parks because of the evidence, because of the whistleblowers, because of the people who have come out and said, yes, I've seen this stuff. I used to work for these agencies. Emery Smith, like, my hat's off to these guys that are whistleblowers that come out because they're trying to tell us, look, this stuff is real and it's happening. We've experienced it. We've touched it. We've seen it. We've gone. There's stories of these people that worked with the government, these whistleblowers, who have said things that are now being validated not only just by released declassified documents, but also through movies. I was just talking to somebody about Godzilla versus King Kong in that episode where, or the part of the movie where those kids are trying to go find something, and then they go down um, into this military facility, and there's like this tube traveling rail system that they get in, and it's like you it has a touch screen, and it's saying like your destination is like Australia, China, Italy, whatever. Emery Smith and these guys were talking about this for a while. And it's like I said, the disinformation or the discrediting of these people's validity, it just makes it seem like, okay, well, it's a movie. It's just for show. And that's how they get everybody, is to get their mind desensitized off of things like fucking zombies. um Reanimation of life, cloning, AI technology taking over the world, like through the movie of the Terminator. You even hear the author of the Matrix and the Terminator series. She talks about it on live on TV, that both of the movies go together, but she's talking about the reality of AI. And you've got Britain, whistleblowers that have come out of Britain talking about, they've been working on this uh, disease that they've been mutating, and it's like a rabbit, like an extreme form of rabies, kind of like that movie 28 Days Later. Fuck, could you imagine? Weather modification stuff. Um, Star Wars even. There's whistleblowers that have come out on Gaia on the episodes that I was talking about with David Wilcox, where he's talking about people who worked on the Star Wars program, um, who worked on these ships that they were having that were already going into space. And like I said, this isn't me. You guys can look this stuff on on Google, go on Gaia and find the episodes of David Wilcox talking to one of the engineers who were working with the government officials to build these crafts that were going to be able to go into space. And he has drawings, he has pictures, he has documentation, he has affidavits from people who were there with him that witnessed or seen stuff. And that's why I said, like, I mean, take it for what you want. I mean, but when you look at what these people now who are working with the government, who are talking about, the things that they've seen, it validates what these old timers who are coming forward and saying, yeah, I did this stuff. There is, this is true. They even came out with something talking about the moon possibly being a hollow star or an orbiting satellite. But they've been talking about that for years. Now all of a sudden you've got, these contemporary freaking scientists, these people coming out of nowhere talking about, oh yeah, well, it could be a possibility. Come on, man. Everything that we've been, people that have been doing this stuff that they've been trying to get out, it's starting to come out little but surely, surely but little. And that's why I said, like, a lot of the stuff that we talk about goes into, things like, government stuff, um, projects that people have been working on or looked into, um, and it becomes something that's like a network of sharing information with everybody. And when you're able to show people things and say, okay, well, check this out, about this, and you want to just let people look it up for themselves or look into these things. I mean, a lot of times people are just like, yeah, well, whatever, what do I care? That's your business. All I'm saying is this is something that I've looked into, or I've tried researching, or even trying to contact people or talking with people working on the projects and looking into that stuff and being like, hey, have you guys found out anything? Or journalists, looking into their stuff that they've been looking into it and researching it for a long time. And a lot of times people do books about the research that they've gathered, or the scientists that have gathered information. I mean, look at all the time they talk about, new things or discoveries that they're finding, or new planets that are like Earth-like. Um, that stuff's intriguing because it makes you think, okay, well, if they've been saying this stuff forever, then then you're sitting here validating what they've been saying for a long time. We're not the only life on this planet or in this universe. So why not just come out and say it? The one thing that they always say is that the government will say, if we let this stuff out, we know that people are not going to be able to handle it. Would we want to cause a mass panic? Would we want people to start freaking? Is it going to be something? Are people going to be able to accept the knowledge of this information that they're going to be told? That right there is the arguing statement by people that say this. If we let this information out and this stuff is released, how would people take it? Now, this is where, a lot of people that, look into this stuff say this is where the desensitization of the information becomes critical, is they are able to put it in movies and make you think, okay, well, this is something that's fictional. It's not real. It's it's just something that we can create, and it's fictitious. This is how good we can get it. Because now they can just discredit people for saying, oh, well, I have seen something like that, or I have experienced that, or I have witnessed this, or I was working on this and I know what I'm talking about. Because then it's like, whatever. you know, just another wacko talking about some crazy stuff that they've experienced. And that's the big thing throughout the community of Dr. Stephen Greer's um, Unacknowledged project to declassify and release information on things that the government and the shadow government that he calls them is working on. Everything. And as I said, I mean, there's people that have gone out and, said that they worked on these projects or these, government issues or secret, you know, projects by the military industrial complex. And they've come out and said, yes, this stuff has happened. I understand it. I've worked on it and, I've seen it for myself. I mean, you've got Bob Lazar. God bless that guy for freaking coming out and sharing what he knows because now we have validated that it is real. We know it was true what he was saying. And I think it was called what, Element 53 or Element 15 or something like that he was talking about that actually controls these UFO ships that he was working on to reverse engineer. They've now come up with that element because they found out what it is now. So if they've been able to find out what that is, wouldn't that be suggestive that they've already reverse engineered enough of these things that they can fly them around themselves? If they have the power element to do it, just like a lot of whistleblowers have already come forward and said that they have been doing. Which brings me to uh, my head topic that I wanted to talk about right now is talking about all this conspiracy stuff and things that are going on with the world, especially right now. Um, um, I was talking to my wife this weekend after the whole incident that happened with uh, President Trump almost being assassinated and the gross negligence of the people who were responsible for protecting this man from what happened on Saturday. Right off the bat, I pointed out a lot of things that were being validated by other veterans and other people who have dealt with these types of situations. Um, there were a lot of things that we saw that should not have happened. And people are validating those points that I was telling her. And I told her, didn't I just talk to you about this? She's like, yeah, that's fucking crazy. And I told her, I said, a lot of veterans and a lot of experienced people are saying this shit should not have happened. But a lot of things should not have happened with this man's presidency. He should not have been elected, but he was. Was this stuff foretold? Was this something that was brought up uh, over 100 years ago? And I told her, I said, you know what? This is crazy because I just watched a YouTube video and the title of it was The Last President. And it was funny because I told her, babe, didn't I looked up and I got inside of my Google Books and sure as shit, there it was. I downloaded the book uh, about 2, 3 years ago, and it was called 1900 or The Last President. If you have not read this book or you do not believe that this book is real, give me a second. I'm going to look it up right now. Hold on. This book, okay, was written, like I said, published in 1986. This book foretells a story of an unlikely man who lives in New York. Okay. Like I said, look this up yourself. I'm not bullshitting you. Let me see if this is it. I'm looking for the. Anyway, this book talks about a man who lived in New York at, I believe, okay, President Trump's where he lives, and there are 3 sets to this book, the series, okay, and this man, like I said, he wrote them in the late 1800s, early 1900s. The the other 2, hold on here, because like I said, this is this is crazy. Um, this series comes with 3 books. The first one is, let me look it up here. Travels and Adventures of Little Baron Trump, His Wonderful Dog Bulger, and His Wonderful Dog Bulger. Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. I'm not fucking shitting you. This is what it's called. And The Last President, or 1900. Oh, Lord. Um, it says the volume discusses the rise of a U.S. president has been variously described as either coincidental or present of aspects of the 21st century political climate. Set in an American torn by division and dissent, there are references to a hotel on Fifth Avenue, Trump Tower, in New York, and an election or an election of an outsider candidate ensuing in a chaotic atmosphere. The final book is the volume discussed the rise of Ingersoll Lockwood was an author of many children's books and short stories. A veteran of the U.S. Consular Service, he began writing in the 1870s and attained fame and appreciation for his efforts. Yeah, the the book is something. It's I can't explain it. Hold on, let me see what the back of the book. It says, filled with exotic fillers of fancy and the Baron Trump tales feature the title character, a wealthy boy who lives in Trump Castle. His actual name is Wilhelm Heinrich Sebastian von Trump, but for the sake of simplicity, he chooses to go by his title of Baron Trump, as in Baron, the title Baron. The young fellow embarks on time traveling adventures through human history. Through his travels, he meets societies of people and tribes from long ago, picking up aspects of their language and social customs. Accompanied by his faithful and protective companion hound, Bulger, the young bear navigates a variety of adventures and surmounts many obstacles. and the last paragraph was on the one I was talking to you about, the rise of a U.S. president who's an outsider. Yeah. So as I said, if you haven't seen that, I would suggest you check it out. It's really cool. Now, the reason why I talk about this, and I brought it up to my wife, I said, you know what, babe, this is crazy. What we are seeing right now was something that now this has been brought up, that Donald Trump's family, because of what I'm about to share, I mean, a lot of people probably don't know this. If you do know it, cool. But there are a lot of people who don't understand or don't know this. Is that Nikola Tesla, at the time, in 1943, okay, and I'm reading, I'm telling you about right now with what I'm talking about, Nikola Tesla and how he's connected with Donald Trump and Donald Trump, his grandfather. On January 9th of 1943, 2 days after Nikola Tesla died, destitute in a New York City hotel. If you've ever seen the pictures of this man and you do not know the history of who Nikola Tesla is, please go look him up. And it's really sad that you don't, especially if you're, a young kid of this generation. The FBI called MIT professor and esteemed electrical engineer John G. Trump. Now, John G. Trump is Donald Trump's grandfather, to determine if any of the belongings in the inventor's estate, which included a purported weapon of mass destruction, Tesla called the death ray, would be dangerous if they fell into enemy hands. After 3 days of investigation, Trump, in fact, the late, oh, not grandfather, uncle, excuse me, of Donald J. Trump, determined there was no risk. It turned out Tesla never actually made his death ray. Still, the mystery and exaggerating claims, along with the soaring success and failure associated with Tesla, an eccentric Serbian American polymath futurist, continue to be played out today on a scale that only he could have imagined. The two high profile electrical vehicle companies, one named after the inventor's last name, Tesla, headed up by Elon Musk, very much an intellectual descendant of the inventor, would both be creating huge waves and headlines through very, very different reasons 80 years later. Anyway, so Donald Trump's uncle, okay, John G. Trump, was an electrical inventor for the government. He was working through the college, he was working for the government. They brought him in and they wanted him to go and look and see if there was anything of importance that they needed. Nikola Tesla had a vault safe in his room, which was holding his contents, and I think they cleared out the vault safe. It was the vault safe in the hotel, and any paperwork that he had that was belonging to him, um, which included all his documentation on notes that he had on his research. And as I said, when you look at this man's intellectual history of the things that he has done, not only just for the advancement of science in vast array beyond their comprehension. And I talk about this on the other episodes too, about the Tartarian Empire. This man was the last great of his time, but we are still achieving things based on what he was finding uh, through his own research. But Donald Trump's uncle heads up this Tesla investigation, and they find out a lot of things. And one of the things was that Nikola Tesla was working on was time travel, and they says that he believed that he figured it out. Now, the information they say was in this safe and in the notes that he had. Um, and they've been able to successfully do a lot of things that we today think is science fiction. Now, do these books and Donald Trump have anything to do with, you know, time travel? I don't know. But the coincidences are too vast to just brush off. This being one of them, this weekend is being one of them because this narrative falls back into what was told in these books. Also, everybody who knows and who's heard of the Simpson predictions, this also was freaking predicted. And I almost got shut off from Facebook for freaking posting it because it was like, "Oh, this is disinformation." How is it disinformation if it was something that happened and I'm posting it to the relevance of what is going on now? How is that disinformation? It happened. They showed it in real life. It's not me making it up and putting it out there and saying, "Oh, well, I made this thing up that the Simpsons predicted that Donald Trump was gonna be killed." They fucking posted it. And Facebook's trying to tell me that it's disinformation. It's something that's you're posting um that's false information. How the fuck is it false if I'm posting what they had already put out? And that's what a lot of people are saying is that the cover up behind this and the coincidental writings 120 so years ago of what is going on now that we are witnessing and the moves that this man has made throughout his presidential career to put in place things that he I or his grandfather or his son who is undoubtedly if you look at the picture, let me go back and look show you this picture, okay, of this kid on a lot of people are like, "Holy shit, it looks like Barron Trump." There we go, and then I'll share it. Um, and we'll look at some other ones. But if you look at this, right? I mean, it's his face, all right? Um, it's crazy because I mean, like I said, I mean, you look at him and it's like it's crazy. I don't know. I don't know. But his adventures and now he is pretty much like described how he was described in this book. Well educated, smart, the son of a wealthy man who they call Don. And what is the nickname that they call Donald Trump? The Don in New York at his Trump Tower location, running for president. Everybody's talking about him not being able to be the president because he is an outsider, yada, yada, yada. He's not a politician. The man wins. The man wins. I'm not going to give away the rest of the story. I want you to read it, please. But the attempts on this man's life were foreseen in in what we're talking about. Are we playing out something that was already foreseen by him and his family to put in place what is going to happen because of what is going on in this nation? I don't know. I don't know. But like I said, I believe that we are watching something that is going to play out that is going to forever change this country, this generation. Um, The people born in the early 90s, 80s, 70s, and older are ones who are going to experience the drastic changes that we have seen over the courses of our lives to lead us to what is happening now with our government and with our society and with our nation and with our global standing in this world, on this plane where we are. This change is something that is going to drastically alter the world. Um, there are going to be a lot of things that are going to happen and that are going to come, I think, um, following this election, because we're not going to know who's going to be the president until what, February into January ish. But with what we have seen that has happened, and like I said, political parties aside, governmental issues aside, the pure fact that this man has all this backing, he does not need to be here. He does not, he could have just said, fuck this, I'm out, I'm done. He did not. He stayed. And he said, I'm gonna finish this through. The dude just got shot at. Just got shot at. Comes right into the RNC. Accepts the nomination for the Republican Party. And he's sticking to it. He doesn't need to be here. He could be gone somewhere else. I don't know about you, but anybody who is willing to say, fuck this, I'm doing what's best for the nation, after they just got freaking shot at, and is able to stand up and say, I'm willing to keep pushing forward no matter what. Because he's said it many times. They're going to get me out of the way. And the only reason why they're going to try and do it is because they want to do everything that they can to destroy this country. I love this country. But as I said, we are at a time right now, I think, where it's a critical um, issue, not whether of, you're Democrat or Republic, but I think it's a time that we need to come together as a society and say that we need to start thinking about each other as a whole. We need to start putting we should just get rid of political parties, period. Why can't we just be one nation? I know we got to have representatives to represent us, but I think the differences that we've already seen that are tearing this country apart, and we need a revamping. And thank God for our founding fathers. Hold on. Thank God for our founding fathers who wrote this amazing document. Because they foresee everything that was happening. So, getting back to the supernatural issues, time traveling aspect of what I think is going on here, what are your guys' thoughts? Yeah, let me look that up and I'll post it in here right now. I'm gonna get a listing of these books. I'll get the links and I will post it. Hold on. Let me copy this. All right, here we go. This first one that I'm posting is the Baron Trump collection book set that I was talking about that was written in 1896. Let me look this up again. To Amazon. One of the other books that I recommend, uh, I'll just put all of the ones that I have on here, and you guys can check it out and get them for yourself because it's absolutely amazing. Yeah. Here's the second one. This one right here is Unearthing the Cloud Eaters. It's the Gen 6 book. And the third one I'm putting on here is the Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, A Beginner's Guide by Billy Carson. I highly recommend this book too because he puts the information of the Emerald Tablets and the information behind regarding the tablets. This one right here. All right. Highly recommend you get it. I'd sit down and read it, and I'd read some of these parts out to my wife, and we were just like blown away. There is also the God Code by Greg Braden. Greg Braden. The God Code. Now, the God Code, this book is written by Greg Braden. I'm trying to get it. My internet's running really slow. I hate it. Now, this one right here is good. Um, Greg Braden, if you don't know who he is a fantastic, insightful person, uh, a scientist, um, who I'll read the excerpt from this on the back of the book. It says, "Beyond any reasonable doubt, we each share the ancient name of God in our bodies in the most intimate way imaginable. Each fiber of muscle, each crystal of bone, the tears that we shed, and by the products of life that we call waste, all are God. Within this simple yet powerful realization lives the thread of our unity and the key to our survival. While we may not know precisely what challenges we will face in our collective future, of one thing that we may be certain: whatever our test entails, we will face them as a global family. Whatever the fate befalls one community, people, or a nation is possible for all others as well. It will require every ounce of our collective wisdom, our passion to preserve life, the strength that can only come from our diversity for us to become more than our tests. For hundreds of generations, we have each carried the key to our survival as a message to ourselves in a form that once recognized could not be mistaken. Perhaps an anticipation of the day when the search for our origins would lead us to the essentials of life. It is only through our discovery and acceptance that we are one with the world that the message could never be revealed." Great stuff. I've also got the Gnostic Gospels collection. Let me look that up. I'll put that on here too. I'm gonna post this one right here. This is the one that I have. Oh my god! As I said, when you start researching and understanding that things are much broader than this box that we've been in, um, a lot of times you start realizing that there's more to the story that we've been told. And that's all I'm saying is that, ugh, looking outside of that box and realizing that things that we've known and we've understood are just, it's a cover for something that goes deeper. And I just wish that everybody would take the time to please research this, get outside of the box, open your mind, stop being closed minded to everything that you've been taught or everything that people say, and realize, please, that I'm not forcing this on anybody. All I'm saying is just look into it. Look into it. I just like I said, with the whole reading and researching stuff and just getting into the knowledge and the realization of things to better understand, not just the Bible. I mean, I've got my beautiful wife got me all of the Sadhguru, the Sadhguru collections, um, and that in itself, was a real blessing because I love listening to Sadhguru and his teachings and the things that he talks about. And it's just, it's been a real eye opener, soul searching ordeal, self searching with a lot of things. Um, the Epic of Humanity by Billy Carson and Matthew LaCroix. Um, the Suppression and the Evolution of Human Consciousness by Matthew LaCroix. And also the Gospel of the Holy 12, the ancient book of Jasher, Jasher, the Battles of the Elohim. Um, I also have Shannon Lee's book um, that she wrote for the teachings of her father, the late great master Bruce Lee. Be Water, My Friend, that she so graciously signed. But it's a lot of teachings and going over the philosophies that Bruce Lee had about oneself and how to overcome or how to master certain things in your life, and overcome the things that you might think are, deafening or life altering. Um, he was truly a man ahead of his time. I also have two Bibles. I have my last one that I bought when I first moved here, and I also have an older one um, that I had gotten from a family member. And yeah, I have a Dake's King James annotated reference Bible. So, like I said, I look into things, from all angles, and I try to, you know, you're very welcome. I appreciate you guys. I mean, everybody for coming on and checking out the show. Thank you guys so much. It means a lot because, like I said, I mean, just being able to discuss and talk about a lot of this stuff that, we wouldn't be able to talk about, at a normal setting per se. But I I'm glad that we're able to do this stuff, and we're able to hang out and just discuss a lot of things. But hopefully, uh, a lot of people will realize that there is something more. There is something else that is going on that we are not uh, synchronized or synced into because of the frequencies. Um, we're not in tune with them yet. I don't know what that is. I'm just putting something on because I hate the quiet. I guess that's cool. So I'm just glad that we're able to sit and discuss and talk about these things. So anytime, uh, you know, there's something that you want to talk about or hit up or discuss, please go to the page, come here to YouTube, get on and post something or add something to the podcast, and excuse me, go on Facebook and post something or post a video or you know even post a live video of yourself asking a question, and I'll get on and we'll figure it out. If I don't know the answers, we'll look for it. That was one of the best things I remember in the military, is my leaders were always telling me, and especially something that I learned. And sometimes people were like, "Oh man, that was just a cop out," but it's true, because it's like, if I don't know, our during your promotion board or any other time, hey, what's this about, or what's this, or asking you a question about something. My leaders used to tell me, don't stand there looking like a dumbass. If you don't fucking know, you don't know. Tell them, sir, I don't know, but I will go find the answer and I'll get right back to you. And that's the thing, is if I don't know it and you're going to ask me something or you're wanting to know about something, I'll look it up. If I don't know it, I'll find something that we can reference it on, point you in that direction, and then we'll both go over it. Because if I don't know, then I'm going to learn with you. We can all learn together. That's the thing. That's the beauty of this, is that we can all look at this stuff together, figure it out. Um, there's so much that we could do if, like John Lennon said in his song Imagine, what if we just put all this stuff that divides us away? Stop focusing on what religion other people are, what they believe in, what race they are, where they come from, and just realize that we're all human beings. The one thing that divides us is the greed and the focus to set the purposefulness of separating us as human beings and getting us to be separate by causing division and telling us these things, or you know creating this uh, slave system that we are associated with, that we're under control of, this false sense of freedom, because they want to control it. Now, like I said, this is just my thought, so if you know take it for what you want, is that if we could all just put that stuff away, like what is separating us from just living on this planet? The greed and the decisiveness, the indecisiveness of people to do the right thing by releasing the technologies that would make this planet better, releasing the information of things that are hidden, that we would know that, oh well, this was true, this was true, this was true, telling us the truth of things that are happening, so that way we are aware of them and we can collectively deal with them as a whole together. How crazy would it be if that day came? I hope that our kids, my grandson or my grandkids, are able to live in a world like that. I hope that one day our kids, our ancestors, us being the ancestors, I guess, right? That the division of whatever is causing that on this planet, whoever's behind it, because it's a person, it's an entity of some sort. Wouldn't that be crazy if we could just, yeah, the Ethiopian Bible, that's the one I want to get my hands on, and look at too, because apparently everything that is unedited is in that book. That was the one book that was unedited that has all the books included, I believe, that were taken out, the Gnostic Gospels. Um, there is so much that would change if we could all just put that stuff aside and realize that there's no difference between us. We've all got to survive on this earth. We've all got to live here, and we can do it together by not just freaking sitting here and causing division and having things or having people tell you, oh well, this person's that. Oh, they're a person. People should wake up and realize that we are being controlled by these people through networks, through images, through subliminal. Like I said, go back. I'm going right back to the beginning of what I was talking about. The movie They Live. We walk around this world every day being subliminally programmed through everything that we have now, whether it's, misinformation, the things we see on Facebook, on Google, on YouTube, TikTok, whatever. When you go into a store, a lot of people talk about, man, I just go into Walmart and I walk out with 50 different things I didn't even need, and I only needed to go in for a fucking box of screws or a thing of soap. Why is that? Hmm. Why is it that when somebody tells you that uh, your IQ score is too low to be an inventor, that you don't pursue it because they tell you that? Why is it in society that we praise since we were little? Praise the people that we choose that are better than others by rewarding them rather than saying, okay, well, if you're not good at this, what are you good at? A lot of times it was like, you look back on it now and it was like, this stuff was selective since we were young. It was, when you look, it's crazy to think about it. And, the generations, the differences or the similarities that happen with the generations at some point, and we've had like this shift of where things just don't happen that way. Everything's changed. But you see that cartoons or movies or shows or things are getting so more explicit than what they used to, like they just don't care anymore. And it's like the portrayal of things that are like, you're just like, what is going on? Like, even in the freaking videos and stuff that you see on like YouTube or whatever the crap is out there, it's all this stuff is just out there now. And it's shifted so much to where it's like, okay, what's going on? Because now everybody's like, well, now we've got rampant crime. We've got, all this, stuff going on that shouldn't be happening or that was not the norm. Hell, I'll say even 10 years ago. Like, what's going on with this stuff? You know, are we being, manipulated by what things that are going on in our lives because of I mean, it tripped me out the other day. I was thinking, man, like this guy had posted something. He's like, it's so crazy how far we've come from growing and getting our food locally to having to go to the store and buy things, from eating fresh things and having dinners that you cook yourself, fresh tomatoes, fresh, ingredients. How far we've come from that to just going to the store and buying things that are made by somebody that we don't even know what they're putting into it. And we're buying things or these pharmaceutical drug companies are spending billions and billions of dollars on these running ads of, oh, if you have ulcers, if you have, blood problems, if you have this, you have that, this is the answer for you. And they're showing this medication that supposedly is going to heal this thing. But then if you ever listen to it, it's like it causes brain bleeding or it causes your eyeballs to pop out of your head, may cause high blood pressure. If you feel any of these symptoms, call your doctor. And it's like you're sacrificing one bad for 4 other bads. But people will take it, or people will get prescribed this stuff instead of doing something with it and realizing what you're doing is causing the problems with your body. But we've come so far from doing that to just gobbling up and regurgitating and just doing what the system is telling you to do. And as I said before, this is just one of the things that I was thinking about. So it's not like I'm putting it out there. Why is it that we sit here and realize that the history that we've been told is probably not, if you think about this stuff, is probably not what what is true? We sit here and we celebrate things like Columbus Day when Christopher Columbus didn't do anything. He just rediscovered something that was already found. But we celebrate this man. Not only do we celebrate and we gave him his own holiday, but we don't celebrate the other men or the other countries or the other tribes who came here, who were here long before them. These are little things that I think about or that I get into and I research, Ancient cities, ancient structures, ancient technology, Tartaria. Tartaria, for a long time, I kept hearing about this. Tartarian Empire, the Tartarian civilization, the Tartarian technology. And I'm like thinking, oh man, this must have been like medieval times. Hell no. This was from the late 1800s on. This is so, it just blows my mind, the things that are hidden from us that we uncover, that we find out. Like I said, documentation being released by the CIA or the FBI saying, yes, the Tartarian Empire was true and was being manipulated to be hidden from everybody so that way they wouldn't know what was going on. Come on. I mean, is this something that, people are just like not jumping on this? If these people are able to wipe out history, wipe out whole historical events and cultures and everything, they have been able to manipulate and do this for a long time. We are at a breaking point where people are starting to realize, like, wait a minute, this is not right. This is not okay. Something's up. You start your spiritual aspect of, and your third eye, your mind starts telling you, like, you wake up to the reality of what's going on and you start trying to live your life differently, not on what they're telling you to do. Be you. This world with their resources that are here that will sustain everybody. Why are we paying these people for food we could be growing ourselves? Why are we dealing with these outside entities when we could be dealing with things locally? We could take care of each other. We could sustain each other. We are poisoning our bodies by eating crap that we don't even know what's in it. We're going off of what they're telling us. Changing those habits is hard. Changing that state of mind is difficult. I get it. We were there. It's hard to change certain aspects, but once you start realizing it and you start doing it, trying to be better on it, it makes a difference. And for, a long time, it took me a while to be open about this stuff. And like I said, I love my wife to death. And I talk to her about everything. I think I'm a weirdo. And it's really, I love it. I love it because when we experience this stuff together, her and I, she validates for me exactly like things that are going on. So I appreciate that. And that's why I said that's why I wanted to do this podcast, is because I wanted everybody to be able to come together and share your information, share your stories, be able to talk. And yeah, we all have to. There's a reason, a purpose for everybody waking up. People are starting to realize exactly the same way that there's something going on. We're hip to what's happening, and we're breaking out of this matrix. And what I'm talking about is, I said this in episode 22, I think, on the podcast, was that people don't realize like the spiritual aspect of you is real. This right here, this is not me. This is the body I was born into. This is the body that I was given. This is what I was made. But when this body dies, I'm going to continue to live. Now, is this what they were talking about as far as the resurrection and coming back? Because you see in ancient history, it talks about, and not just in Mesopotamia, but India and Asia, the Native Americans, the Aborigines, different cultures that are ancient talk about the same thing. And even scientists validate it. Energy is forever. It's all around us. It doesn't die, it doesn't deplete, it just takes a different shape. And I believe that wholeheartedly. I think once people start realizing who we are and what our capabilities are on this earth, and just taking care of ourselves and getting back to what we need to get back to, we are getting way far offhand as far as grounding ourselves and being what we need to be in order to survive on this planet. Technology is good. The advancement of our race on this planet is good. But what we are doing to the planet, what we are doing to ourselves, what we're doing to each other is it's not what was planned and destined for us. And I believe that. hopefully one day our grandkids or we'll be able to see something like that and watch our children grow up and be able to not worry about differences, setting aside all this crap that people tell us that we have to follow. It's so freaking crazy how far we've come from being dependent communities taking care of each other to having to be told what to do, what you can and can't do. And I pretty much, I remember something like this happening 248 years ago. These men that took up arms and fought a government, a dictatorship that was telling them that they couldn't do things, took away their civil rights and their liberties and their freedoms to tax them. I guess we've come a long way from being who we used to be. But maybe one day we'll be a free nation, free world, be able to thrive and communicate freely and not have to worry about wars and separation crap. Maybe one day to come will these extraterrestrial beings, or they'll come out and tell us that all these cryptids and everything are real, and they'll finally release all the crap that they wanted to tell us, and they freaking don't. They don't think we can handle it. Oh crap. Anyway, yeah, just diving into this is the first time I've been on since like 2-3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago maybe. Gonna get some more subject matter stuff going, specific subject matter we can talk about. I think I'm gonna do I think our next topic or our next show that we're going to have is going to be on spirituality and different aspects of that, and what different regions discuss or talk about regarding um, the spirit and their look and take on what we as spirit beings being in these bodies and experiencing this life with the next, and how ancient cultures around the world, not just one central unit, but others, the coincidences and the similarities between them. But yeah, I'm glad you guys were able to come along. Appreciate you guys so much, and share share the podcast with everybody. Get the word out. Like I said, I was really sad, brokenhearted, because I was like, man, I don't want to delete the group. It was over 535 followers, man. God, and that was just like worldwide, but it just, it is what it is. And is like I said, as long as people, we can communicate and talk about this stuff, the information and the message will get out. So, what's up? You okay? Are you giving me that look like ready to get off? Yeah, but it's cool. You good? Yeah, so thank you guys for following. Thank you guys for joining me back again for this first episode on the restoration of the podcast. And I will see you guys next week. Yeah, but thank you guys. I appreciate it. You guys are amazing. Thank you guys for chiming in. And I will see you guys hopefully next Wednesday again. We'll have to do it. So thank you. See you later.